Okay, so what are you saying, people, and welcome back to your favorite YouTube channel. So today, guys, like always, another weekly analysis for you. On the screen, other pairs will be analyzing today, but make sure you stay to the end of the video because I do have a bonus pair in store. But first, we'll go through my trade for the week first and then progress into the analysis. So if there's a particular pair you want to see my analysis from, feel free to skip ahead using the timestamps down below. I only had one position this week, so it'll be fairly quick. On Euro JPY, which turned out to be a loss. Price fell to hold the level I was looking to short from. Again, the analysis was pretty on point. We did have that pullback, and then we had the continuation to the downside, but price pulled up a little bit higher than expected. Actually did pull up into a secondary of interest, which unfortunately I wasn't having the charts to capitalize on. Had the nice support there, term resistance, had some nice fib confidence there as well, and we also had the third test of this trend line with that first, second, and third lower high. So had some good confluence there. There was a re-entry signal for me to get in, but I'm actually away at the moment, so I'm not really full focus on the charts. Managed to catch this Euro JPY position, which turned out to be a loss. On another day, maybe price wouldn't have pushed up and it would just have fallen in my favor, but you win and lose some. There's nothing you can do about it apart from moving on and learn from your mistakes. So that was all my trades this week, just the Euro JPY position. But next week is looking pretty interesting. Hopefully I can be at the charts a little bit more to see if we can capitalize on a few more opportunities, but we will have to see. First, like always, we'll start with EURUSD, then progress through the video. But yeah, for EURUSD, we flew to the upside this week, and I said I was kind of neutral coming to the week for EURUSD because price was kind of trading in this range here. We had the equal lows down here. We had some equal highs, well, not equal highs, we had a high up there. So I was waiting for EURUSD to either take the high out or take out the low, and then I'll look for the pullback and then the continuation. Either to the downside, like so, then I'll look for the pullback, or to the upside, like so, then I'll look for the pullback. We did see the market break through the high fairly early, maybe Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday we broke through the high. Had a slight retracement, which is basically this consolidation in the lower time frames, and then we saw the continuation. So not enough for me to get in the market. But since then, we had this big rally, and now the market is correcting itself to the downside. So I'm very, very interested to get long on EURUSD and see if we can get some longs just back to the highs there. Possibly EURUSD could be looking to come back to those highs up there, but again, with this big correction, I'll be more than happy just to see if we can get to that resistance. Yeah, 1 to 3, 1 to 4, more than happy to just take my profit there. The market is currently trading in one of my areas of interest right now. I have two, which is this level, so the level that price is trading on, and also this level here at 1.068 and also 1.07. So these are my two levels of interest where I'm looking to long EURUSD. Right now the market is just about holding to that level. So if you can maintain that coming into Monday morning London session, see some few more wicks to the downside, I'd be more than happy to start looking for entries to take it back to the upside again, back up to 1.09. So the plan is for EURUSD, looking for long opportunities. If price decides it wants to break through the level and come and test this level, that's perfectly fine as well. The risk towards increases if you do pull back deeper. But both levels look good. Both levels got good confluence. And all I'm just looking to do is wait for some good entry signals to take advantage of some long opportunities. But yeah, for Euro, my bias is definitely bullish. Looking for another swing to the upside, back into the highs there. Now I'm just waiting for a good entry signal. There's a possibility that the market could be forming a major lower high and looking to actually have a bigger reversal. If that's the case, I'll wait for some more lower highs to develop before I look to cement that bias, because overall I do still expect EURUSD to eventually roll over and have a bigger move to the downside, but the price action of 4H is not quite there yet. I need to see some more lower highs and lower lows. So at the moment I'm just focusing on this bullish structure over here, and I'm just looking for the next high low for push back to the highs. Keep it simple, just playing with the structure. So yeah, waiting for some good entry signals. We've already seen some signs that the market starting to hold that level. So if that can maintain it on Monday morning, we'll look for some longs. If you do push down a little bit deeper, that's perfectly fine as well. We'll be looking at 1.068, 1.069 for some long opportunities. But yeah, for EURUSD, bullish bias this week, looking for us to return back to 1.09, back at those highs next week. Okay, so next up we've got USD JPY. So coming into the week for this one, we were bearish, looking for more downside. Have seen a bit more downside. Price action is a little bit corrective, but we are still seeing some lower lows and some lower highs continuing. Was looking for a retest of 133.500. Didn't quite see that before the market continues south, but not to worry. We've still got a lot more downside to go, or at least I expect us to do anyway. Nothing's 100%, but we are still looking at this bigger reversal pattern, head and shoulder pattern on the weekly time frame. left shoulder, head, potential right shoulder. So we're looking for a push back down into that support level. So I still do expect more downside for USD JPY. And all we need to do, as traders, is look for the pullbacks, look for the best opportunity to get involved, and then look to place our trades and ride the momentum to the downside. Like I said, price is a little bit corrective. It's recently made some new lows, so I do want to see a bit more of a pullback for this one back into the resistance here. We do have some good confluence with this trend line. If we connect the high over there to the next few highs the market has been printing, we do have some good confluence coming back into that resistance. So that's what I'm looking for USD JPY. Just a smaller pullbacks, quite corrective. I'm not expecting a bigger move to the upside. If it is a bigger move, I'll probably pause and just see what price does after that big move, whether we break through some structure or not. That would be important to see. But right now I'm just looking at just a little bit more of a pullback back to 131,500, and then looking for some more continuation. Again, you don't necessarily need to target down those lows. The consolidation over here as well could also be a nice target, 128,785. But for me, I'm still pretty bearish on this one. JPY pairs in general, I think I'm bearish on probably all of them. So yeah, I'm expecting downside for all of them. So basically JPY strength, just looking for some good entries on some pullbacks to ride that momentum to the downside. If you break your structure, you can look to change our bias and our opinions. But right now, still very consistent with the lower lows and lower highs. Looking for the next lower high at 131,500. Expecting more downside back to these lows and altogether back down to those weekly lows here at 127,500 for next week. Okay, so on to USD CAD. So USD CAD looks like we could be looking to break to the upside. I was speaking about USD CAD last week, saying that we had a really good area down here, which we almost tapped into. A nice area of consolidation, which saw a lot of momentum on the breakout. So I said we potentially could test this area and see some upside, potentially a low high could form, which could be what's forming right now. But overall, USD CAD, if I just delete this level here, it's more or less consolidation. It's more or less consolidation. So trading in this type of area here is going to be a little bit risky and a little bit indecisive. So if you're looking to trade USD CAD, the market structure is still bullish. We haven't violated any important lows yet. The lows are still intact, as you can see. And the area that I was talking about last week still has not been tested, although it came pretty close. Price just about missed out on the area. So there's a possibility we could look to run the lows again, like we've been doing previously. The market run the lows here, and then big push to the upside there. So potentially you could see that happen again, and then see another push to the upside. So you want to be trading at the extremes. When the market's consolidating, you want to be trading really high or really low within that consolidation, and potentially could see the market test this area, fake those lows out, and then see another move to the upside, potentially back to the high, or maybe back to the highs, or maybe even some new higher highs as well. USD CAD's quite choppy right now, so there's a good chance we could form a lower high and roll back over. If momentum is very strong and dollar sees a lot of strength, then potentially we could break to the upside. But that is obviously something that we could find out later within the week. But in terms of the opportunities for USD CAD, it is quite a choppy market, so you want to be trading down low. The structure is still bullish. We haven't violated any important lows yet, so I would still be anticipating buys if we were to see another move to the downside. And targets, keep it simple, back to resistance here, potentially back to the highs there, and start looking to take your profit. Possibly back to the resistance up here as well, but there are some levels here which could give you a hard time before price does get to those highs. So think about 1.373, 1.38, and potentially 1.385 for some targets for USD CAD. But in terms of bias and structure, it is still bullish, although we are seeing very choppy market conditions right now. So buys do look good, but down low around the 1.36300 area, testing into that consolidation area. See if you can get some good rejections, some good wicks down the 4H. You can look for some entries, then you can push it how far you want to. Back to the resistance here, or potentially back to the highs, whichever risk towards you're after. But in terms of USD CAD, still bullish, still looking for buys and a push back to the highs for next week. Okay, so over to Euro Pounds. Euro Pound this week, some nice upside coming into the levels we were talking about last week. We did have a slight breakout above the resistance. So we're looking at shorts for Euro Pound. The market's been making lower lows. We have some equal highs up here. So all we're looking to do is anticipate that next lower high. I said my area of interest is 0.883, which is this level here. I also was talking about the resistance up here, but that was just in case the market was very bullish. We did see some good momentum coming to the level. We did see initial good reaction. However, the market went and broke through and then came back above. So again, Euro Pound's quite choppy, as we can see. It's practically consolidating really. So with euro pound, you know, it's not going to be the cleanest setup, especially in these conditions. And typically euro pound is quite a choppy pair in general. But it looks like we could be forming that next lower high. We've got the equal highs up there. You know, these are our lower highs. One, well, that's our initial high there. Second lower high, and potentially third lower high. So for euro pound, all I'm looking at is another push back down into the support level. We were talking about some extended targets down at the consolidation down the left. We'll keep that in the back of our heads for now, but to get involved with the setup, you want to see a correction to the upside, retest 0.883, and then look for our shorts and a bit of a head and shoulder pattern. Got the left shoulder, the head, and possibly the right shoulder forming there. Obviously, there's a chance we could just head down without the retracement. But again, you don't really want to be looking for your entries short in the market down here. You want the market to come up first, need some levels of resistance where you can place a safe stop loss and also maximize your risk reward there as well. So euro pound for me, I'm looking at that being potentially the next lower high. So all we're looking at is more downside into the prior lows. And to get some good shorts on, you know, this level I'm looking at, same as last week, 0.883, but now we've got that fake out to the upside. So looking for the retest of that and then the continuation to the downside back down to the lows. And feel free if you want to push down a little bit further into the consolidation there, which is basically this resistance here, trading at around 0.864. But for me, euro pound, pretty bearish on this one, and those would be the targets if I do get into any shorts, back down to 0.87249 for next week. So that's the plan for euro pound. Look at more downside back to the price swing lows for euro pound for next week. Okay, so on to AUD/USD. So for this pair, we're looking at some sells at the start of the week, followed for some potential buys later on. We kind of did see that price was coming into this area of consolidation, similar to USD CAD. Price was consolidating here, big move to the downside. We tapped back into that area. Did see a brief move, and I said because price is very, very corrective, there's a good chance we could see a higher low and some deep retracement. However, that we didn't really see the follow through on that move. We did see some short-term buys, but the market is now breaking through some structure there to the downside. So it looks like the market is forming that next lower high and possibly could be moving back down to the lows. Again, we still do have the long-term targets for AUD/USD back down at these lows here. So I still do expect, you know, quite a lot more downside for AUD/USD as long as we maintain this bearish structure. We've got some really nice wicks down the daily, so I'm anticipating more downside. And now we've just got the breaking structure of this low here on the 4H. So essentially looking for a lower high to develop and the continuation back down to these lows, and possibly so on and so forth as long as the trend, you know, stays bearish. So yeah, AUD/USD, we're looking at some shorts here. We're looking at another pullback to the upside, which is broken through some lows. So we're looking at some retracement. The obvious area I'm looking at is price back into the resistance here, which is, if we move out of the way, 0.67200. If we could see move back into this level here, sort of like a head and shoulder pattern as well. As you can see, left shoulder, head, right shoulder. That's kind of what I'm looking at for AUD/USD. Or we might get a shallow retracement into this level here as well. So it's up to AUD/USD. We'll monitor price action. Again, a confirmation is what gets us into the trade. Price potentially could come into this level and blow straight through, push into that resistance, and then we're going to look for our shorts around there. If price starts to see some good rejection around 0.66747, which is this level, then we can start looking for the shorts. But the main thing we're looking for is that next lower high after the break of structure, continuation back down to these lows here at 0.65800. So yeah, AUD/USD bearish bias. It looks like dollar could be looking to reverse potentially. Not really seeing it as much signs on the DXY right as of yet. So need a bit more development for the DXY to look like it's back bullish again. We have seen some good upside, but it hasn't really taken out any key highs or key lows. So I do still expect to see some weakness for the DXY coming into next week, but there's a good chance we could form some higher lows and look to reverse it later on, or maybe the week after. But for AUD/USD, we'll look at some more downside. Hopefully we can get a nice pullback into 0.667 into the first level, or back into that high at 0.672, and looking for some sells back down to the prior lows for next week. Okay, so on to NZD CAD. So NZD CAD looks like it's trying to break out of a big descending structure, but overall looks like it is failing. And we could probably be seeing another move back down into the lows here, which is this point here at around 0.835. I say that because the market's had two attempts right now to try and break through the bigger descending structure, break out the trend line. As you can see, big momentum to the upside, completely failed. Market came straight back down. Second time again, big momentum. Looks like the market's coming straight back down. You know, if we were going to see a breakout, we normally just see a big impulsive move, correction, and then continuation. Now we're seeing impulse up, impulse down, another impulse up. It looks like we're about to see another impulse back down, which is a couple red flags there that the market's trying to break out. Most likely it's going to respect it and eventually roll over. So for NZD CAD going into next week, we've got one high over here, we've got a lower high over here. I'm looking to see if we can find a third lower high for that short to the downside. I'm looking precisely at this resistance level here at 0.856. So that is my area of interest going into next week for NZD CAD. Bearish bias, looking for the market to overall just form that major third lower high, one over here, second, and looking at a third one. And we can be looking at a pushback down to those lows. Again, there's a couple good places for TPs. There's this support level here, which is obviously priced to be respected a couple of times now. So that makes sense there. Even this low there as well, or even the prior low. So it's up to you with your risk reward and what you're looking for in the market. But from an analytical point of view, I'm looking at a push all the way back down to these lows, which could take 2 or 3 weeks. But for next week, you can be looking for a push back down to 0.846 on a retest of that structure there at 0.856. So the plan for NZD CAD, looking for sales. Do you want to see a pullback first? Then we start looking for some entries and looking for a push all the way back down to these lows, hopefully in the next couple of weeks or so. Okay, so next up we've got Pound NZD, which looks like there's a lot of life back into Pound NZDs for the bulls. We're still seeing bullish structure coming into the week. We were quite hesitant, or at least I was quite hesitant because the market was respecting these highs a few times. Yes, the market was still bullish. We haven't violated any key lows yet, but the fact that we were failing at the highs was a red flag. So I did say coming into the week, we're still looking for bias, but I want the market to come a lot further down. I was talking about this support level here around 1.934. Didn't quite see the move. We did see the market take out these weaker lows here, but then it retested this structure here, that resistance there, turned support, and used that as a continuation there to the upside. So now that we've seen that big bullish move, wiping out the highs here, creating some new highs, we're expecting the market to continue. We might retrace to the downside a little bit more, but essentially we're looking at another higher low forming for another continuation higher. So this is the trend line I'm looking at, the market connecting the main 3 higher lows, 1, 2, 3. I'm looking at a retest of the structure here, really nice resistance down the left. Hasn't been used as support yet. The market's been quite corrected through the level. Looking to see if we can change that. Nice test of this level, accompanied with the trend line. Looking for that higher low and a continuation back to the highs, whether back to the resistance here or the resistance up here. Again, it's up to you where you want to take your trade in terms of your target, but that will be the plan going to next week. We've still got bullish structure. We're still seeing some really good momentum in the market, so I am liking Pound NZD again. Last week I was a little bit but with that big push to the upside, I'm liking this structure again. So hopefully you can see one more push down, sort of a bull flag type of pattern, impulse, correction 1, correction 2, and then the continuation. And my area of interest will be 1.95298. Looking for some longs there upon some confirmation and taking it back to the resistance 1.97, then potentially back to highs at 1.98100. So that'll be the plan for Pound NZD going into next week. Okay, so up next we've got CAD Yen. So CAD Yen coming into the week, we were bearish, looking for more downside. We're talking about price coming into these lows here. As you can see, on Friday we just about smashed through them. So now the market's done that, we could possibly see some retracement, but nothing's really changed from our bias. The market's still printing lower lows and lower highs, and there's still a high time frame level, especially on the weekly, which I'm looking for the market to eventually go and retest, which is this prior high there. We broke through this high, never got the retest off, so I think there's a good chance we'll probably see CAD Yen trading at these prices maybe in a couple of weeks, or however long it takes CAD Yen to get there. But as long as we maintain this bearish structure, we maintain these lower lows and lower highs and don't violate them, I'm expecting more downside. So CAD Yen, we've got a really nice level here of broken support, now turn resistance. You got a lot of support here, support there, briefly support, was resistance briefly there as well. So looking to see if you can come back to the same area. Got some nice trend line confluence coming through the chart there as well, and hopefully you can reject that area upon some nice confirmation. And then there, look for our trade entries. Too short, CAD Yen back to the downside. Again, we can be just looking at keeping it simple back down to the prior low, especially if you're trading the low time frames. That could be a nice little target. But if the risk reward allows it, we'll be looking for a push back down to 92.8987, which is that weekly level I was talking about earlier in the analysis. So for CAD Yen, still bearish, still seeing consistent lower lows and lower highs. Yes, the market is a little bit corrective, so if you do start breaking to the upside and see a big push like that, I'll definitely be on pause for CAD Yen, becoming a little bit more neutral. There's a chance you could be forming a major lower high to eventually do something like that. or we could actually be looking to reverse and go back up again. So I have to wait for things to develop if something like that happens. But at the moment, we're still, respecting structure. So we'll be looking for just a simple retest of this area of confluence and looking for my lower highs here around 96 for a pushback down into 94,215 and then eventually into 92,987. So that'll be a plan for CAD Yen going into next week. Okay, so up next we've got Pound USD. So Pound USD coming to the week, I was looking to go bullish, but I needed for price to break through those highs first. And we did that pretty much on market open. So I said then we can look for the retest of that structure, resistance turn support, and look for our buys there. However, I think this buy opportunity came outside of my trading hours, 6 p.m. So I started trading at 5 p.m. So it was outside my trading hours, but nonetheless, it was still a good opportunity and a good move there to the upside there for pound. It hasn't hit my target, my extended target, which is priced back to the highs here essentially, when we had that big double top down the left. So that's still where I'm looking for price to go for Pound USD as long as we maintain this bullish structure. So now that we're back at this level here, if you can maintain this support on Monday, this could be some nice buys early London session or possibly New York, and take it to the upside, back to the resistance here, then potentially back to the 1.24 area. Or if we do pull back a little bit deeper, I also am looking at this 1.21 area there as well, which is another area that I was talking about last week on my weekly analysis, just in case we had a deeper pullback. That area is still valid. So if you do get a deeper pullback into that area, still looking for the same pattern, looking for the higher low to form and another move to the upside. So that's still the plan for Pound USD. There's a chance we could form a major lower high around these areas or equal highs with that and start to look to roll over, because similar to EURUSD, Pound USD, I'm expecting us to eventually see a bigger move to the downside as well. But we may be looking for just a brief move to the upside, retest that resistance before we do see that reversal, or we may not see the reversal. But that's the plan for Pound USD. You've got some really nice bullish structure, some good momentum in the market. We're retesting a good level now, so see what we can get on Monday. If you do come down a little bit deeper, not to worry, 1.21 is also a good level to look at for some long opportunities and targets. We're looking at price coming back into the highs at 1.232 and also into the high time frame structure, daily weekly highs at 1.24 for next week. Okay, so Pound CAD up next. So Pound CAD is now testing these highs here, which is where we're looking for Pound CAD to come into after we had the big breakout past these highs here. Now the market's testing that area. We're getting quite corrective. As you can see, the pullbacks are getting quite frequent. So I'm expecting a deeper pullback for Pound CAD. And then we can start looking for our buys around this area here, retesting that brief resistance there before we had a big breakout there to the upside with good momentum. So this area does look good for some long opportunities. Again, the bullish structure is still present. Really nice bullish move there to the upside. Didn't quite see the retracement looking for this week. I was looking for the retest of the structure. We came pretty close before we see another continuation up higher. So now we're looking for markets to come retest this area for possible another move back into that resistance. Again, I'm not really looking for sales. I know the market is back at that resistance there, but it's not really my type of trade. I'm looking to trade with market structure, trade with momentum. So I'm more interested in the longs here at 1.665. See what type of price action we can get there and possibly just look for another move back to the resistance. No need to really look for higher highs here. There's a key level resistance which did start this big move to the downside here. So there's a good chance the market could reject this area, but I'd rather be buying into that level further down, looking for buys around here or even looking for some sells up there as well. So the buys for Pound CAD is still bullish, but I do want to see a deep retracement. Area of interest 1.665, and we're still bullish on Pound CAD as long as we don't break through these major structural lows. If the market ends up doing that, then we possibly got a bigger reversal on our hands, and we'll probably look to change the bias completely for Pound CAD going into the following weeks. So Pound CAD right now is still bullish structure, still seeing some good momentum, a little bit corrected now, so I'm expecting a deeper retracement. Keep an eye on 1.665 for some opportunities and simply looking for a push back to where we came from, back into resistance at 1.6837 for next week. Okay, so now we've got Pound Yen. So Pound Yen, again, bearish buys coming into the week for this one. Again, the yen pairs are still pretty bearish across all of them, I'm pretty sure. Pound Yen especially, still seeing consistent lower lows and lower highs with this one. Coming into the week, I gave out a couple of areas looking to retest of that structure. We did see a few tests of that, but nothing really happened. The market came to the upside, grabbed liquidity above the highs, tapped into our second level of interest, and then we saw a bigger move to the downside. I actually did a video speaking about this opportunity, talking about how to trade fake out, so feel free to check that out. My most recent video that I posted on my channel. But yeah, really nice move to the downside. So coming into next week, still looking for more downside. I said, overall goal, can be back down to these lows down here. If you are forming these major lower highs, if you zoom out, look at the bigger picture, we've got one high there, second high there, and possibly we've got a third one there. So naturally expecting price to return back to these lows here at 155,700. So looking at this structure here, we're looking just for good entries to anticipate more downside. And this level here stands out to me very, very clearly. This is like a miniature area of a head and shoulder pattern, as you can see here, and that's kind of our neckline. So looking for another push to the upside. Ooh, wrong tool. Another push to the upside, retest that structure, and there we can start looking for our entries. We don't want to be selling too low down because we've got a lot of wicks here. So we want price either to break through this area, retest, and then sell, or at least pull back higher up. We did get quite aggressive wick there to the downside just before the market closed. So there's a good chance we probably see the upside and retest this level here at 168.54. So it looks good for some more opportunity to short pound yen. If you did miss this opportunity here, like I did, there could be another opportunity to get back in with still decent risk reward back down to the lows. Or if you want to push a little bit further, you've got these lows down here around 155.500 we're also looking at. But for pound yen, we've got a bunch of lower highs here, a bunch of lower lows, and all we're looking at is that structure continuing until it breaks, or at least until we hit those lows there. So the plan for pound yen, looking for the next low high, retest 168.90, look for entries around that area, and anticipating a swing back down to the lows, and then eventually 155.811 for next week for pound yen. Okay, so now we're going to move on to gold. So gold this week, some more bullish price action as expected. Still bullish on gold, had a lovely impulse to the upside, came back and retested this level. I gave out a couple levels for gold this week. This was one of them. Price showed no respect to this level. We broke through with ease. However, the second level, we saw a lot of consolidation. Price broke at that consolidation, retested the low time frames, and gave some really nice buys there to the upside. We're starting to struggle a little bit at the highs. Market's still definitely bullish. We're still looking for longs. But we can anticipate some more downside. Anticipate some more downside for pound USD. Anticipate some more downside for gold, and then we can look for some more continuation to the upside. So this is the opportunity I'm looking at gold, looking at shallow retracement because we already had this big impulse here. So looking at a bit more of a minor retracement back into the support level with those wicks into the trend line there. 1, 2, trying to catch that third high low, and looking for possibly a break of that structure here. A break or at least a test of that resistance, but possibly a breakout, and for gold to rally higher. You've got that infamous 2040, 2050 level on the weekly time frame right above us, so there's a good chance we could go and test this area. One massive wick into that level, second massive wick, could see a third one start to form over the next few weeks if we can break through that resistance at 2010 there. So gold's still pretty bullish, looking for that next higher low. There's a possibility we could have a deeper retracement, double bottom down at the same area and get a bit more of a consolidation going, something like that. So there could still be some highs down at 1938 where we had that consolidation and the level we talked about last week. But this is the number one opportunity we focused on for gold, looking for that next higher low. We've still got good bullish structure here and looking for that to continue, at least, like I said, back to that resistance. So you probably want to look at the lower time frames here to maximize that risk reward, because if the market has rejected this twice, there's a possibility we could reject it a third time and start to roll over. So you do want to be taking a profit around these highs here and maybe leaving a little bit to trickle to go and test that higher time frame weekly level. But in terms of bias and everything, it's still bullish for gold. I know we're having a hard time breaking through the highs here, but the higher lows and the bullish momentum is still present. So we're looking for that to continue until we break structure. So that will always be the plan. As long as structure is still intact, we're looking to follow that structure. So gold looking at more upside, looking at 1970 for some buys, and also if you do break a little bit lower, 1934 as well. And anticipating another push back to highs. If you can break through that, we're looking at 2040, 2050 going forward as well. Okay, so for Bitcoin this week, haven't seen much. Basically just consolidation since we last spoke on the weekly analysis. I said we're looking for some buys this week for Bitcoin on the retest of this structure here. We had this big rollover to the downside. It looked to be just a fake out, cleaning out some of those here, forming that low. I was expecting price to have a correction and continue south. However, it just started flying to the upside and broke through the highs there. So coming into this week, we're looking for the correction here to the downside, retest the prior high there, since we haven't had a retest of it, and looking for the continuation into 30k, which is a very, very strong level for Bitcoin on the higher time frames, particularly the weekly here. As you can see, really strong level of support, and we're looking for the retest of that structure. So I said coming into the week, we're looking for the retest of, let me go back to the daily time frame. We're looking for the retest of the support level for the continuation into 30K, 31K. But possibly if we don't see that move and we just see price kind of correctly move to the upside, there could be some good sells later on, retesting that resistance if we don't see the retracement first, because at that point the market's quite overextended. We're seeing corrective price action into a key level. Most likely we are probably going to see some downside sooner or later from that area. So if we don't see this first initial retracement for Bitcoin, go and retest 25K, then there could be some nice sells around 30, 31K, take it back down again using 4H time frame, kind of navigate the entries there for Bitcoin. It wouldn't go too much lower than that. But that would be the plan for Bitcoin, same as last week pretty much, because we haven't really gone anywhere. I think, you know, around here is where I talked about Bitcoin last, and we're still pretty much trading at the same price without testing the key resistance or the key support below. So Bitcoin for me is kind of middle of nowhere right now, not looking to touch it, looking for price to come into areas of values first, and then we can start looking for some entries and start planning some trades out. So keep an eye on 25K for some buys, keep an eye on 30, 31K for some sells, and then we can look to play, you know, between those ranges for next week and probably for the next couple of weeks as well. And last but not least, our bonus pair, which is EURUSD, which I think is the debut of EURUSD. I don't think we've ever had it as a bonus pair before, but here it is. It is looking pretty good into the next few days, next couple of weeks. So EURUSD, bearish bias, looking for a return back down into this support level here. We've got some really nice lower highs here on the daily time frame, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm also just looking for the market to continue south. If you scale to the higher time frames here, you can see the market has been very, very bearish for a while, so just looking for the trend to continue. We've got a lot of wicks here to the upside, so anticipating that bullish momentum to kind of deplete from this retracement and the bears start stepping back in. So yeah, going to next week, we're looking at some selling opportunities. If I can connect the major swing highs, oh, completely missed it there. Connect the major swing highs here. We're all looking at another push back into the resistance here to retest that and look for some sells in that trend line, or possibly a retest of the support level. We might not see as big a retracement as that, and we might just see a retest of this support level here at 0.99308, and then look for our sells there. But we are looking at a push back down to 0.97200, all the way back down there. Again, there's a few places you can look to secure profit. Retest of this structure here, maybe back down into this low here as well, which we're starting to stall out already. So there's a few places to look to take your profit, but we're looking at a swing, perspective here. So it's up to you when you want to take your profit and look to manage your trades. But long term, looking at a push back down to the lows here at 0.972. And the areas of interest will be at the high here, right at the extremes, retesting some key structure at 0.99328. or 0.99882. So that'll be the plan for next week for EURUSD, but you can see very clear structure here, lower lows and lower highs, and all we're looking to do is just catch the next lower high on a retracement or a pullback and look to take advantage of that momentum to the downside. So that'll be the plan for EURUSD going into next week and maybe a couple weeks after that, depending how long it takes. But yeah, guys, that is us coming to the end of the video. Hope you have found it useful and enjoyed the video. If you are enjoying the content, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe on the channel. It really does help out the channel. And make sure you hit the bell whilst you're at it so you don't miss out on any streams or videos in the future. But thank you so much for watching the video, guys. I do really appreciate it. I'll catch you all next week.